Souls to the Polls is dedicated to making sure Milwaukee-area voters are registered and that they can get to the polls to vote. Founded in 2013, the nonprofit and nonpartisan organization works with the faith community to help voters understand the collective power of voting to strengthen African American communities. Joining us is Anita Johnson. She is the Voting Education and Community Outreach Manager for Souls to the Polls. This, I know, is a very busy time of the year for you, so we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Souls to the Polls works closely with the faith-based community. Why is this connection so vital to its work?
Well, once you get the ministers involved, usually the members of the church follow what the ministers say. So Reverend Lewis has connections with over 500 churches in the city of Milwaukee, and he gives them the information so they can give it to their congregation. So it's very, a lot of people go to church, and that's the way we reach a section of voters.
And it's interesting. People always say, whatever the message is from the pulpit, people pay attention to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Souls to the Polls has two programs that are really designed to do some significant outreach. One of them is 100 Women on the Move, and you also have church ambassadors. Tell us a little bit about each of those programs and why they're important to your work.
When Souls to the Polls was created in 2013, I was the person that would go to every church and educate the parishioners on what was expected of them when they went to the polls to vote. We try to work smarter now, and so we created a group called the Ambassadors. Each church each church that we come across has an ambassador. I train the ambassador on how to register people to vote, advise people on how to get a state ID. If they need any flyers or lawn signs, we give them that. So it saves me from going around to each church by having these ambassadors in each church. The ambassador is the point person for the community of the church. They have somebody right there that they can talk to instead of trying to always get in contact with me.
And what about 100 Women on the Move? What is that program about?
100 Women on the Move was created in February through Micah with Rhonda and Brenda. 100 Women on the Move is a group of women that are dedicated to getting out the vote. We canvass, we teach, we do a lot of things in the public. People are always trying to volunteer to do this, to do that. We have 100 women on the move who are our volunteers when we need flyers passed out or postcards written or anything to do. So that's why 100 Women on the Move was created. They're dedicated to getting out the resource for voting.
You're also, by working with the church ambassadors and 100 Women on the Move, Souls to the Polls is already a very trusted resource. But what you're doing is you're putting even more trusted resources directly into the community to answer questions and to help people understand the importance of voting.
Yes, we are. The ambassadors and the 100 Women on the Move have worked out really well. We also partner with the League of Women Voters, the League of Progressive Seniors, Micah, a lot of other organizations. This is not a job that we can do by ourselves. We have to work with other people to get the word out and encourage people to vote.
Souls to the Polls also encourages people to not simply make sure they're ready to vote on Election Day, but you focus on early voting. Why is that something that is so important to Souls to the Polls?
We feel that going to vote early will stop you from standing in line. Early vote starts October 22nd. You don't have to stand in line like you do if you go to vote on November 5th. If there's any problems, you have to change your address. Maybe you don't have your ID like you're supposed to. You can get these things done during early vote. A lot of times people don't have the proper documents when they go to the polls to vote. If you go early, you can take care of those things at the polls. Or if you need to get an ID, they can send you over to the DMV so you can get an ID in time for the November 5th election. So when you go to the DMV, tell the clerk, I need an ID so I can vote. There is an IDPP process that you can go through that will help you to get a state ID once you give them more information. You can get a temporary ID that is good for 60 days. It's only good for voting. Senior citizens also have stopped driving and they're afraid that they don't have an ID anymore. What senior citizens can do, 65 years and older, they can also go to the DMV with their expired driver's license and get a permanent state ID. It will never expire. We have Souls to the Poll Sunday, and we ask all of the churches have your normal minister sermons, and after church, gather up your members and go to the polls to vote.
That has been a really powerful movement. Those rally Sundays that take place after church. What days are those this year, and where is it going to be held? Because there's been a change in one of the early voting locations in Milwaukee.
Well, we now have the voting center, 60th and Capitol. Early vote starts October 22nd, and the Souls to the Poll Sunday is October 27th. But voting ends, early vote ends November 3rd. And that is a Sunday. So we have 2 Sundays that you can go and early vote. But we will have our first rally October 27th. That will be Souls to the Polls Sunday. And then there will be another Sunday that you can vote, which will be November 3rd. That will be the last day of early voting.
Whether it's early voting or it's voting on Election Day, one of the other things that Souls to the Polls really works on is making sure people have rides to get there.
We do offer rides to the polls for early voting, and as well on Election Day. We do offer those rides. And the telephone number for that is 414-742-1060. I would advise you to call early and, let them know that you will need a ride. But you can call that number, 414-742-1060 on Election Day, and somebody will come and pick you up, take you to your polling site, and bring you back home. This has been a very robust program that Norma has started, and it's worked out very, very well for people who need rides to the polls.
Voting is such an important part of being an informed and active citizen. Anita, we thank you and Souls to the Polls for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
For more information about Souls to the Polls, visit the website at soulstothepollswi.org. We're back with more in just a minute.